Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. This is our monthly meeting of the Cobb County Board of Zoning Appeals. And before we go any further, everyone who can, we will ask you to stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, my apologies for being a few minutes late. I will now call the meeting to order. Please silence your cell phones if you've not already, and we'll now address the consent agenda. For those who do not have a copy of the agenda or who are attending for the first time, we will concern ourselves with cases that are on consent. These are cases that have been reviewed by the board and by the professionals from various departments here in the county, and to which there's no known opposition at this time. We've discussed these in our work session. Certain staff comments and stipulations have been made, and we do not anticipate any further discussion is needed for a decision. So as we go forward, the County Zoning Division Manager, Mr. John Peterson, will read each case into the record. Mr. Peterson will ask that you raise your hand, show when your case is called, to show you are present. If you are here in opposition to a case that is currently on consent, Mr. Peterson will ask you to identify yourself, and that case will be, identify yourself as the case is read into the record. We will then pull the case off of the consent and hear it as part of our regular case agenda. We will then vote on all the cases that are still on consent at one time. Once we have approved the cases on consent, we will move to our regular case agenda. With that, are we ready, Mr. Peterson?
Yes, we are. Okay, and before we begin the consent, I do have a couple announcements to make. Variance case V81 of 2025, Chad Davis. This case has been withdrawn without prejudice. It will not be heard today. So V81 of 2025 will not be heard today. And Madam Chair and Board, I did get a request. The applicant for variance case V78 of 2025, Natalie Spots, they wish that case to be withdrawn without prejudice. So I just need a vote on that one.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in vote? All right, approved.
Okay.
Well, moving forward.
And lastly, variance case V65 of 2025, William A. Lane. This case was held by the Board of Zoning Appeals from the June 11th, 2025 hearing until the August 13th, 2025 hearing. So V65 of 2025 will not be heard today. And with that, Madam Chair and Board, I'm ready to start the consent agenda. Cobb County Board of Zoning Appeals, variance hearing consent agenda for July 9th, 2025. First case on consent is variance case V76. Neil Basanya requests a variance to number 1, reduce the setbacks for an accessory structure, which is a proposed 1,500 square foot garage, required 100 feet to 24 feet adjacent to the southern property line and 59 feet adjacent to the eastern property line. Number 2, allow an accessory structure, which is the proposed 1,500 square foot garage, to be to the side of the principal building. And number 3, allow a second electrical meter on a lot in land lots 109 and 110 of the 20th district. The property is located on the west side of Joseph Drive, south of Ivy Road. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, stormwater management comments. And number 2, no commercial or residential use of the accessory structure. Is the applicant present? Is the applicant here for V76, Neil Basanya? Is there anyone here opposed to this case? Madam Chair and Board, the applicant does not appear to be present. Would it be the board's wish just to leave this on consent and move on, or would you like to do something else with the case?
Madam Chair, I'm fine with this being left on consent as the applicant secured 7 neighbor consents.
Okay. Okay. Next case is variance case V77. Walter A. Sarek Jr. requests a variance to reduce the setbacks for an accessory structure, which is a proposed 1,200 square foot garage from required 100 feet to 16 feet adjacent to the southern property line, 11 feet adjacent to the eastern property line, and 90 feet adjacent to the western property line. And number 2, allow a second electrical meter on a residential lot in land lot 104 of the 20th District. The property is located at the terminus of Kenmont Court, north of Old 41 Highway. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, stormwater management comments, and number 2, no dwelling or commercial use of the accessory structure. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V77? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V79, Williams A. Gonzalez requests a variance to number 1, reduce the setback for an accessory structure, which is a proposed 528 square foot garage for required 40 feet to 25 feet adjacent to the southern property line. Number 2, reduce the setbacks for an accessory structure for an existing 480 square foot shed from required 12 feet to 5 feet adjacent to the western property line and 28 feet adjacent to the southern property line in land lot 1271 of the 19th District. The property is located on the south side of Lindsay Drive, east of Holloman Road. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, no dwelling or commercial use of the accessory structure. And number 2, development inspections comments. Is the applicant present? The applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case of V79? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V80, Hugo Degato requests a variance to reduce the front setback from required 50 feet to 35 feet in land lot 204 of the 19th District. The property is located on the east side of Castile Road, north and west of La Villa Drive. Staff recommends approval. Is the applicant present? The applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to the variance case of V80? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V82, Ashley Dover requests a variance to increase the maximum allowable impervious surface from required 35% to 38.5% in land lot 248 of the 16th District. The property is located on the west side of Sweat Creek Run, west of Sweat Creek Cove. Staff recommends approval, subject to stormwater management comments. Is the applicant present? The applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to the variance case V82? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V83, Charlie Hurd requests a variance to reduce the setbacks for an accessory structure, which is a proposed approximately 623 square foot garage from required 40 feet to 22 feet adjacent to the northwestern property line and from 12 feet to 3 feet adjacent to the southwestern property line in land lot 954 of the 17th District. The property is located at the terminus of Brandy Station Court, east of Randall Farm Road. Staff recommends approval, subject to no dwelling or commercial use of the accessory structure. Is the applicant present? The applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V83? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V84, Piedmont Loop Center LLC requests a variance to allow 2 monument signs on the same property closer than 150 feet to each other in land lot 72 of the 20th District. The property is located on the northeast corner of Lake Ackworth Drive and Cobb Parkway. Staff recommends approval, subject to traffic comments. Is the applicant present? The applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V84? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V86, Edward C. Jennings requests a variance to increase the maximum allowable impervious surface from required 35% to 36.57% in land lot 613 of the 19th District. The property is located on the west side of Rondadale Drive, and the south side of John Petrie Road. Staff recommends approval, subject to stormwater management comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V86? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V87, Gene Shearer requests a variance to reduce the rear setback from required 35 feet to 30 feet in land lot 21 of the 1st District. property is located on the southeast corner of Smoke Rise Lane and Chimney Springs Drive. Staff recommends approval. Is the applicant present? Yes. The applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V87? Let the record show there's no one opposed. And final case on consent is variance case V88. Nilesh Patel requests a variance to increase the maximum height of a fence along a road from required 6 feet to 8 feet in land lot 556 of the 16th district. The property is located within the Post Oak Manor subdivision on the northeast corner of Post Oak Road and Barrymore Road. Staff recommends approval, subject to traffic comments last revised June 30th, 2025. Is the applicant present? The applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to the variance case of V88? Let the record show there's no one opposed, and that completes the consent agenda, Madam Chair and Board.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson.
Can I ask Mr. Peterson if you could please explain to all of the people that are on consent agendas what subject to staff comments mean? Because I think we've had some issues where they didn't know what they're to do with that.
Sure. Well, when I'm reading the consent and I add in stormwater management comments or traffic comments or other staff comments, that means the comments that are within your case are included as part of the approval of the case. So the comments can be found online at cobbcounty.org under the county clerk's website under civic clerk. If you go there, you can see what those comments mean. And those comments were put out probably about a week and a half ago, so they were online.
Thank you.
Good. Anything else? Everybody prepared for a motion? All right. Place your motion. Make a motion, please.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda with conditions and stipulations in tow.
Second.
All right, let's vote. The motion passes. The items on the consent agenda have been approved. Thank you.
Okay, all those folks that were approved on consent, you're free to leave. Just leave quietly because we're going to continue on with the hearing.
We'll give you a minute.
Okay. All right. First case we're going to hear today.
All right. We are now ready to proceed with a regular case agenda. Our procedure here is Mr. Peterson will read the case into the record. The applicant and any representative of the applicant who wishes to speak will be asked to come forward to the lectern and be sworn in as well. The applicant and the opposition both have 10 minutes each to present their case. All testimonies from the podium. We have AV capability, so if you have brought images with you, and testimonies will be followed from the board and be directed at either party after we close the public hearing. Because once we close the public hearing, it's our responsibility to ask you the appropriate questions to clarify any questions we might have. At that point in time, you will be asked to come back to the podium. Okay, now, Mr. Peterson, did I explain things?
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All right, first case we're going to hear today is variance case V74, Charles Barnwell. Request a variance to reduce the setbacks for an accessory use over 650 square feet for an existing 1,890 square foot sports court from 100 feet to 4 feet adjacent to the east and south property lines. And number two, allow an accessory use, which is an existing 1,890 square foot sports court to be located to the front of the principal building in land lots 889 and 905 of the 17th district. The property is located on the west side of Valley Creek Drive, south of Orchard Knob Road. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V74? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Would the applicant please come forward to be sworn in?
Good afternoon. Thank you for hearing us today. My name is Katie Gregory, and I'm here with homeowner Matt Barnwell. I'm an environmental project consultant and have been assisting Mr. Barnwell in reviewing and addressing the variance requests with his outdoor project. As is stated, we are here seeking the variances listed under application V74 for an existing structure, a sports court, which was part of a landscaping project. The variances requested are to the R30 setback, reducing the 100-foot setback to 4 feet for the northeast corner of the sports court from the property edge, and a variance from the placement of the side of the court. Of comments made in regard to the project, we also want to address the flood ordinances in 5866 related to the permitted use of the floodplain area, which the southern part of the property is located in this floodplain. No fill material was used, no elevation changes occurred, and only permanent structure is constructed of a flood-resistant material, being concrete, if a court pad does qualify as a structure. We also request a variance for the sewer easement ordinance in Ordinance 122-123, as there is approximately 10 linear feet in the northwest corner of the sports court that overlaps the 20-foot sewer easement, including the additional 2-foot buffer, which would reduce the easement from 22 feet to 6 feet, but the line does not pass under the actual sports court. We believe and show that the area concerned for the consideration of a stream buffer is not completely necessary or much reduced from the initial observation and statement, and seek a variance or continuance while further conversations with Georgia EPD can occur. We'd like to show that this project began as a homeowner project because of the topography. Can I pass to, thank you.
If you would speak a little bit more in the mic, because it's very difficult to hear you, and if you would slow down a little bit, because you're talking very, very fast. We want to be able to obtain what you're telling us.
Okay, thank you very much. So as you will see, the small circle on the space is Mr. Barnwell's property, and the southern part, which is where the stream comes through, and then you will see the property that is across from that as the elevation increases up to approximately 900 feet. So the water run on, as rainwater comes through, it's at approximately 100 feet of elevation change over about 400 feet distance, was creating a lot of lying water that was filling the property and creating up to a 1 foot of pooling in there, and they couldn't use that property. There were concerns for mosquitoes and insects in that space as well, as Mr. Barnwell does have small children. So when they sought to have a landscape project to reduce some of the standing water and drainage issues that were not occurring on the property, they brought in a landscape architect to develop some drainage spaces, and part of that, they also incorporated the sports court for his children, and inadvertently also for all the children in the neighborhood to play. So this kind of shows where the issue originated and what they sought to address. So the overall landscape design, thank you, sir. As you can see, now I will say, as you travel south on this, this is a dead-end road, which does kind of end right where the sports court is. So the corner where you can see the small gravel path to the edge of the sports court is at the dead-end road, which goes into that property that we discussed that has the extreme topography changes. So this just gives you a general outlay of what they did in creating, putting in some drainage, making that flat, creating something of use for the family and enjoyment, and then creating some stable structures through vegetation to assist with maintaining the property, and any type of water issue could be absorbed through all of the plants and landscaping as well. They did hire a landscape architect firm to develop this plan for them. Okay. So, sorry, to give you a better close-up of the spaces where are more in discussion, you can see at the top, the dark dashed line is the 100-year floodplain line, which comes just to that property, so you'll see all of the property. South does kind of fall within that. That is a 100-year floodplain. It increases your percent of a flood by 1%, which, and I'll also point out, what looks like a ladder on the space would have been a bridge. This was not constructed. This was the original conceptual plan, and that piece did not come to fruition. The chairs and fire pit piece is just a pea gravel space where kids additionally play. Chairs could be set up, but there is nothing that is structurally incorporated into that outside of gravel. You will also see, and I think I have it, I have it highlighted. The sewer line goes kind of right through where the conception of a fire pit would be. So it does skirt very close to that northwest corner of the concrete pad, but it is approximately 5 feet from the pad. So again, our statement of variance of the easement piece that is on either side of the sewer line would be the concern, but it does not actually cover the line, and pea gravel isn't a permanent structure, and at any point in time, it could be accessed in any of those spaces. So, let me see. So I think the largest concern and discussion was, and I think this map will be fine, for the stream water body that does go through the property and then actually goes underground as it leaves property and heads to the neighbors. It is piped through the other side. So in looking at this and discussing what the stream buffer variance case would be, Mr. Barnwell had talked with, and I think when this initially came up in the discussion, that not only was this a county stream buffer, but it would also be of interest to the state. So at the point, the state came out and wrote their inspection report and submitted that report, which we have seen, stating that the 25-foot buffer does come onto the patio and that a recreational use isn't a buffer variance approval. But what the report, the picture showed were of the measurement on the sports court that showed that space, but it did not show from the stream, whereas in stream identification and buffer identification comes from rested vegetation. So what you're looking at in stream identification is as water flows through, is it removing soil or vegetation, rested kind of means laid down or spot, that it then needs the buffer for the space for the stream to have that ability to kind of flow through and erode. So you do not have rested vegetation when you have a rock wall, riprap, a seawall or a buffer, a retaining wall, because there is no vegetation. That stream bank is stabilized and solid. So the two things for a stream is one, flow and base flow. So you can't ever look at it 48 hours after a storm event, and there is flow, so we acknowledge that over. But two, of is there rested vegetation, are these buffers stable, are banks stable? So as we will see, the side that is closest to the house, thank you, sir, are rock walled in a retaining wall, concrete and rocked, and are firmly showing. So there is no space where there would have been rested vegetation, so we believe there is no buffer issue from that side, even though when you look at the landscape architect, she does show that, but it wouldn't exist because there would be no space to measure from rested vegetation. So you can kind of see on the pictures on this side too that there is some riprap on the far side. And these get a little murkier because this is a combination of riprap and vegetation stabilization. So there are some rocks, I should have brought like a kitty laser pointer, riprap of this shelving too, and of stabilizing vegetation. So it isn't a case where you would need a buffer to protect the space that is eroding because it's been stabilized through riprap and through the vegetation that is there and going from, you can kind of see the elephant ears that is so thick and it is carrying down to the bottom of the stream, which is what it's very hard to see in the right picture, but this is actually the stream passing kind of under the giant elephant ears and the ivy. So it's stabilizing the bottom and sides of that stream. So we had reached out to EPD to have a joint site inspection with them, ourselves, and Cobb County to just make sure we're all on the same page and what we're looking at and where we see. And is there a way, should they, again, this can be a little subjective over what you see as rested vegetation and where you consider the point of measurement, for us to all be on the same page and then see what path forward. And while there is no variance category for something like recreational equipment, but what this original project was for was to eliminate drainage problems. Okay, thank you. So we would ask for the ability to continue those conversations with EPD to determine what the stream buffer would actually be. And so our space of these variances and perhaps conditions or continuation so that we could continue our conversations with EPD to see how to maneuver this and understand this from the state's perspective. Thank you.
See that? I can talk that. Oh, I think so. We each get 10 minutes. Okay, no worries. Thank y'all.
Do we have any opposition to this case?
Okay, this is in the district that I represent, and I'd like to bring up Andrew Heath from Stormwater.
Hello, Andrew Heath, Cobb County Stormwater Management.
Good morning, Mr. Heath. Can you please talk about some of the concerns that we have with regards to, I think you could also, with regards to stormwater as well as what they've done as far as with EPD, which my understanding is that they were denied. But could you please go into what your concerns are with this, in both stormwater and the EPD?
Yes. So it appeared when we initially reviewed it that the site does have work that was within the state undisturbed buffer. So we made comment of that in our application. Frank Gibson in erosion control usually follows up with that, and I heard the applicant say just now that there's still ongoing some discussions with that. So I presume that means that that hasn't been resolved yet.
Is it correct, excuse me, is it correct though that they had met with the EPD and the after the fact stream buffer variance from EPD was denied?
I have heard that. I haven't seen anything in writing, but I don't actually have any actual physical evidence of that.
Okay, that was reported by Mr. Gibson from erosion control.
Okay.
So continue.
Yeah, no problem. So, of course, that's a big issue that we needed to get around first. With respect to stormwater management and the site, there is floodplain along the stream there, and the way that would affect or would be affected by the county's ordinances is that we wouldn't allow any fill placement, that is, no one could bring material into the floodplain to level the area out or do anything in that area without some sort of compensatory cut. That is, if you bring in some material, you have to take away an equivalent amount of material. And the feature that's constructed there is relatively flat, so it probably wouldn't represent much in the way of an impediment to the floodplain. But if you bring fill into the floodplain, if you build things there, even if it's vegetation, low walls, whatever that may be, you could potentially impede the flow of runoff through that area. And so usually for any site that came into our office and wanted to do some work within the floodplain, they would have to demonstrate to us that what they were doing created a no-rise condition. That is, it didn't change the water surface elevation of the floodplain at our design event. And so if they're able to work through the stream buffer, I think that would be probably our next goal then, is to begin to work through that and see if they do have that no-rise condition.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions with regards to this? Okay, thank you very much. Is Chris Dugan from Sewer here?
Chris Duggan, Cobb Water.
Can you speak to the issue with regards to the sewer easement?
Sure. So Cobb County does have a sanitary sewer line on the property. It appears on the site plan provided by the applicant that the sports court does encroach into the sanitary sewer easement that's on that sewer line. I'm curious to know where the sewer line information that the applicant provided comes from. It didn't appear to me to be survey quality, but if it is, then the sports court is in violation of the code that prohibits structures within our easements. Typically, how that gets resolved is when they come through apply for a building permit for the sports court, we will have the applicant sign what's called a hold harmless agreement, which states that if our crew is ever working within that easement and we damage the structure, they won't hold us liable for that damage. Typically how we resolve these.
Okay, thank you so much. In reviewing this variance, I just have one very quick question from the applicant's representative. Did you hire a professional sport court company to place this here?
Yes, this was a landscape architect firm that developed the plan and implemented it. They were a
And
licensed firm.
were there any permits that were taken out into, to the build of the sport court?
I'm not aware.
You can approach, yes, you can.
Sure.
So we had a landscape architect do the plans, and then we had a licensed sports court company do that, and there were no permits taken.
Okay.
I was advised by both of them, oh, you don't need a permit, but I did sign with the sports court. I think it's like almost like a hold harmless type thing, where,
Okay.
hey, if we do run into this, we're not gonna be held liable. I don't have that with me, but I'm pretty sure I signed that.
Okay, but there wasn't a
No,
permit
ma'am.
taken. Okay, thank you.
If you will, sir, identify yourself for the record since you did come up.
Yes, ma'am. Charles Barnwell.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Of course.
And I did have a couple questions.
Just stay up there a minute.
Sorry.
What are you planning to play on the sports court?
Yeah, it's mainly basketball, but it's really just a sports court for kids to run around on, kick the ball, et cetera.
And will there be lighting or anything of that nature?
There's no lighting.
No lighting? Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from anybody?
So just for clarification, you went to the county and applied for permits for all the actions you took?
No, that was my regret and why we're here right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So, for not coming through with the company that you had applied for this work and to come up with permits, what you're in violation of is that you are not allowed accessory buildings, structures, uses, decks, whatever, when it's located in the front of your house. So all accessory buildings and structures is considered a structure. Uses and decks shall be located to the rear of the principal building. So you're already in violation of our zoning code. The other thing that concerns me is that you have met with EPD and you were, and at that point, the EPD has rejected that, which was turned down, and I understand that you're waiting for another meeting with EPD. in order for them to determine if you are in fact allowed to build in this, but the after-fact stream buffer variance from EPD was denied. So that's the other thing. And then we do have the issue with this being built in the along our sewer line, and then that you would have to go in and get a hold harmless. So that's another issue. So there's a lot of issues that have come up that we need to, that I've looked at, and I went out and looked at where the location of the court was yesterday. And I understand, you know, why the need is for your children to have a place to play, but this is where a lot of people just get into a lot of situations where they hire companies to do work and they're not getting a permit, and that and if there's no permit, then they haven't looked into, are you in setbacks, are you in the sewer line, are there issues with water? So by placing the sport court here and the issues that we have with flooding, especially in District 2, and then with EPD also turning down your request, it just puts a lot of burden back on the county if this is to be, if this is to remain, in that now stormwater needs to come out to see how much disturbance, how much needs to be put back. This is a very lengthy process and very time consuming for something that wasn't permitted and is not allowed under code. So because of all of these reasons, and you know, it's nicely landscaped, you're in a flood zone, but all of these reasons in our staff comments, and all of our staff take a great amount of time coming out to make sure that what their findings are. It just concerns me that if this continues to be, if we allow this and pass this variance, it's again time consuming for our staff to come out to figure out what other needs you're going to have to do, especially with stormwater. So at this time, I make a motion that we deny V74. And if there's any comments?
Do I have a second or questions?
Second.
I do have a question or two.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
Could I just confirm with the applicant that indeed the EPD turned down the variance application?
Come back up here so we can get you on the microphone, please.
So to my knowledge and from my memory, the variance application for the state with EPD was withdrawn. So there was never an actual denial. They did come out and say, hey, we looked at this and made some measurements, and this doesn't look like it would work, but there was never actually the official variance filed and denied, which is why we've been continuing conversations with the EPD.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have for the applicant. I do have some questions for staff, though, if I could.
Sure, go right ahead.
Mr. Peterson, as a practical matter, with that EPD turn down, to what extent is that sports court impacted by that EPD turn down? Can you speak to that?
The issue regarding EPD is separate and different than what this board is going to consider. This board is only considering the zoning criteria, which is the fact that it's built, in the setbacks for a structure this big, and number two, that it's built in front of the house. So those are the two things that this board should be looking at. The EPD stuff is separate from this.
Okay. I'm not suggesting we override their determination or anything like that. I don't think we have that authority. I'm just trying to find out do you happen to know the extent to which there's floodplain under a portion of the sport court?
It's all in the floodplain.
All of it?
Yeah.
Can you speak to any similar examples where we've been asked to approve for variances in floodplain. I can't remember very many. It seems like I can remember maybe a patio or something at one point in a community with really small.
As far as building a floodplain, the board normally does not consider those. The last one that I can remember that was in the floodplain before this board was actually a denial too, in District 2. I think it was an accessory building in the floodway on Blue Ivy Drive or something.
Right, that's right.
Of Old Canton.
There was also a sport court that was built where EPD denied it, and then that was, we also denied the sport
Yeah.
court being built. Because EPD, it was in a floodplain like this, and they flatly refused. And then Frank Gibson, who's our erosion control division manager, he's the one that has been meeting with EPD. And he was the one, when I asked him with regards to this, said that they needed an after-the-fact stream variance, and it was denied. And supposedly in that, the homeowner was still seeking options from EPD. So that came from Mr. Gibson.
Okay. So my only comment would be, thanks everybody for their responses to my questions. My only comment would be the idea of this being in front of the house does not trouble me greatly, especially considering its location on that roadway. But the floodplain issues do trouble me. Thank you.
All right. Does, any other questions, Fred? All right, are we prepared to vote?
We have
Okay.
a motion and a
Yeah.
second already. Yes.
We got a second, okay. This is a vote for denial. All right. The request has been denied. Next case.
And would the board give some direction on how soon they want it removed?
60 days.
So the removal of the sport court from its location is, I'll give 60 days for removal.
Do we need to amend our motion?
Do I amend my motion?
Sure.
So I make a motion that we deny V74 and that we have the applicant, we grant the applicant 60 days in which to remove the structure.
Second.
Please vote. All right, thank you.
Okay, next case is variance case V75, Martin G. Ndungu. Request a variance to number 1, increase the maximum allowable impervious surface for required 35% to 41%. Number 2, reduce the side setback from required 10 feet to 5 feet adjacent to the adjacent to the southwest property line. And number 3, reduce the rear setback from required 35 feet to 10 feet in land lot 351 of the 17th district. The property is located on the south side of Millard Avenue, east of Old Concord Road. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V75? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Would the applicant please come forward to be sworn in?
Good afternoon. Just state your name and go on with your presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon. All protocols observed. I'm here to present.
Also, you need to speak up a little bit, please, sir.
Okay, to begin with the road showing Miller Avenue. So I'm proposing a driveway, the one that shows proposed concrete driveway, coming from the Miller Avenue. It's like a square carving to the carvings on the side, on the right side is like turning round, connecting to a proposed two-door garage. And behind the door garage is my proposed residence. My request is to have reduced setbacks from 10 to 5 to accommodate the proposed residence on the existing concrete slab. And then the second request is to reduce the layer setbacks. You can see from the back, showing from the required 35 to 10.5 to accommodate from the proposed residence of the existing concrete slab. And then the third request is to reduce the maximum imperfections areas from 35 to 32 to accommodate from the proposed two-door garage. This has emerged due to the house shows some form of wearing out the floors, and I was concerned that it may not stand for so long, and that's why I found important to make the house accommodatable and more improved, and that's why it's understandable. It's a pretty old house, and that's why instead of doing the repairs that may not stand for so long due to it looks that it has been unkept, so I thought it would be a long-term solution would be to demolish the house and build another house. Thank you.
So this application is in District 2 that I represent. So yesterday I went out to go look at this property and went up and down the street. So your request to be able to put a garage in front of your house, and
Correct.
then to which
Let me have you finished all your comments?
he did.
Yes, I did.
Okay, we will
I'll
close
ask
the
him
public
questions.
hearing and just
Okay.
continue the questions.
So anyway, so your proposal is to put this two-car garage in the front of a residence. You have this house that you'll build behind it. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So when I went down Miller Avenue, there are older homes, but there are also some older homes that have been, I think, pretty well upkept. There also were some homes that look not relatively new, but maybe new in the past 10 some odd years. But basically, up and down both sides of the street, there were no garages in the front of their homes. I saw that there were some structures where cars were parked on the side or behind, but I didn't see any homes. And as you can see on this map, you can see a variety of homes up and down the street that are all, the homes are there, and then you have a driveway, and then they have some places that they park their car in, and some garages that they have. So my biggest concern is, I understand that the home that you have now has this big concrete pad in the back, which I don't really understand the purpose. And I understand how that would then, you would want to put the garage in the front so that you can use that concrete slab in the back. But what bothers me the most is in variances, we look at hardships. And then when I look at variances, I also look at how it impacts the communities. And I'm really feeling that this would definitely change the makeup of this street, in that you're going along the street and they have these homes. Like I said, some are very, I think, very well kept. Some have been updated, and then there's some older ones. And I just don't think that this is a direction that I think that if I lived on this road, that I would really want that to go in the direction where people put a two-car garage. That's the first thing you see going down the street. I don't think that that is a direction I would be very pleased with. So what I guess I would like for you to, if the board agrees, is that I would like for you to come back next month with a plan that shows where your existing house is, and then figure out a way to then put your garage where you have proposed residence, but maybe putting your garage on a part of that cement in the back, and then having to remove wherever your garage doesn't sit, your two-car garage. Wherever it doesn't sit, then you'll have to take up the cement to come into compliance with your impervious. But what I'd like for you to consider is that I would like to hold this, and I would like for you to come back with another plan where the home is older. You might have to do some major renovations on it, but I just do not feel at this time comfortable with the fact that you want to convert that into your garage and then the back into your house. So that's sort of what I have out there for you to consider. Does anyone have any questions on the board about this?
Can I comment on that? Am I allowed to comment on that?
Yes, you're more than welcome to comment.
So, absolutely. So we were looking with my planner about not having the dog garage on the front. The only issue is that if you don't have the dog garage on the front, if you choose to put it on any other side, it's gonna increase the impervious, and we're trying to reduce it as much as we can, because if you try to take it on the back, we have to increase the length of the driveway, so it will occupy more space than and the reason we were suggesting to be at the front, because it will consume the less space. That will minimize the impervious to 43. If we do not do that, it will go to maybe over 50. And I don't know if that would be a good thing. And then based on what you're saying about the two-dog garage being on the front, behind the street, they have the same, they have other people who've done that. I think I've seen maybe 2 houses, they've done the same. And I would say the reason that's happening, I think, is a modern way of construction whereby they're putting the two-dog garage on the front. That's just my observation, and that's the reason.
I understand, but it's not happening on this street. I understand regarding your impervious, but I think your impervious is taken up by the large cement pad, whatever that was poured for. I don't know. That large cement pad is clearly not the size of a 2-car garage. So I think that you can go back and work up a plan and come back. You know, I'll even give you 60 days to work with your architect to come back with a plan that shows that the house stays where it is, and that if that means that you need to take a driveway to go down to get your 2-car garage, I still very much feel that that large pad in the back does not need to be that large, and that you can remove some of the impervious that way. As well as if you get your impervious down and you're still over, then at that point we can meet with our stormwater manager, who is very good at giving recommendations on how to put in dry wells or how you take various things that you can do in order to reduce your impervious. So if at that point you have an impervious, you're over your impervious by 5%, 15%, I very much feel that Mr. Heath could work with you on how to reduce it through mitigation. So does that sound, well, you're not, I can't say, does that make you happy? But I very much feel that on this street, I do see some very old homes, and I do see some other homes that have done some very nice jobs of fixing and modifying the front of their houses and things like that. And I just do not feel that this variance, you do not have a hardship that would constitute saying, okay, you're allowed to do this, because you're changing sort of the fabric of that road.
And we encourage you to get with staff and talk with them about the options so that you understand all the different pieces of the puzzle you need to put together.
So, any more questions?
So question is, so your concern is the two-door garage being on the front side. So would you, if it's featured on the different side, would be considered?
If you did the two-car garage where you keep your house, correct? And then the pad is behind. So if you use part of that pad to create your two-car garage, and you can even have your garage doors facing that side so that you have your driveway that goes down and turns into the two-car garage, it's still behind your house. And then whatever of that large pad covering, that large cement pad covering your backyard, that you remove part of that pad to get you down to a reasonable impervious surface coverage. So I think that I know that you had something that you submitted into us, and then you gave us back that you must be working with an architect. So I think that at this point, I am not an architect, and I can't design this. I'm just saying that you've got to put your garage behind the house. And so work with the architect, and I'll give you 60 days, and you can come back in 60 days. You'll have to submit your drawings, but you can come back within 60 days for us to hear it, and that you will present us with a new site plan such as this that shows all the things that I'm requesting. Okay? Any other questions that you have of the applicant?
Is that a motion to hold?
So I make a motion to hold, and that you come back in the, what's 60 days? September hearing? Our September 10th hearing. And you can submit in a design. What is the date, Mr. Peterson?
We're going to need that at least by August 22nd.
So August 22nd, you submit in the plan to community development like you did before, so that we'll have that for review.
Second.
We will hold you until September 10th. Thank you.
Okay, last case on today's agenda is variance case V85, Hans Michael. Request a variance to, number one, reduce the front setback from required 45 feet to 20 feet, and number two, increase the maximum height of a retaining wall from required 6 feet to 50 feet in then 338 of the 20th district. The property is located on the east side of Pindos Place, west of Pindos Pass. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V85? Let the record show there's no one opposed.
Hello Good afternoon. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Paulo Garcia. I'm the architect working with I'm representing my client, Hans Michael. In this case, he is located at 5108 Pindos Pass, and we are requesting a variance to shift the building front setback line from 45 feet to 20 feet, and also have to allow the exposed portions of the proposed retaining walls as measured from the adjacent property owner side of the exposed wall to exceed 6 feet in height when constructed. And we are requesting these variances because the property as it currently exists contains an excessive slope and is too steep for conventional construction to construct a new home, and it will require extraordinary measures to build a home safely and provide a livable space for the homeowners. And to make this possible, the home must be moved forward toward the road along Pindos Pass side in order to reduce the substantial height of the walls required and also provide a more aesthetic look for the finished home site. And as you'll see on the preliminary conceptual site plan I prepared, the retaining walls at where they sit now, they're currently at 40 feet tall at the tallest point. But through further discussions with our civil engineer and our structural engineer, we'll actually be terracing our site, which means the site walls will actually be around 20 feet in height instead of the tall 40 feet, but they will still exceed the 6 feet height required or allowed. And so because of the steep slope and the grade of the terrain, we're having to do these design moves in order to make the house constructible for the client.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just a few questions. Do you have any visuals that you can submit to us or show us now that would show us what this might look like with this current, what you just described as a terraced retaining wall system?
I don't have any visuals as of yet. I can provide some directly after this meeting.
That's something you're willing to prepare and submit
Yes.
to us?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Definitely will.
That'd be useful.
We'll prepare that.
We're just concerned about what this is going to look like because this will
Right.
probably be visible for quite a long distance, right? All right.
Correct, yes. A lot of these homes in this neighborhood have similar retaining walls exceeding 20, almost 35 feet. So it's not something atypical within this neighborhood. It's really required even for the neighbor adjacent to requested a similar variance a few years back, I believe, so.
Okay. We understand you have some interesting topographical challenges on the lot, yes. Okay, so do you have a preliminary water runoff plan at all?
We have a civil engineer working on the plan as of now, and we should be able to present something within 2 weeks. I spoke with him earlier this week, and we are requesting him to provide, a progress plan to be able to present to your staff.
Okay, so Mr. Peterson, would 2 weeks, submittals in 2 weeks be sufficient time for us to consider this again in August?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I don't have any further questions, if any of my fellow members, no. All right, so my motion is we continue this, or hold this rather, I'm sorry, to the next meeting and ask you to get those submittals to us that address those comments we
Okay.
had.
Gotcha. So you would prefer having visuals and also the civil plans to show how
Yeah,
stormwater
and
management.
you described now it's going to be terraced walls, so it's two
Correct.
separate walls. So if you could provide that, then we'll
Will do.
we'll treat that in the when we get around to, if we're affirmative on the variance, we'll phrase it accordingly, appropriately.
Will do.
Okay. So that is my motion to hold this till the August meeting.
I second that motion.
Please cast your votes. Motion to hold passes. We'll see you next month.
See you next month.
All righty, okay. Quick housekeeping and we'll be done. Anything else that we need to address that you're all aware of? All right. I'd like a motion to approve the minutes for the variance hearing on June 11th, as well as the special call meeting on June 30th. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, please vote. Okay, minutes are approved. And I have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, okay, all right. Place your votes. Fred? All right, thank you, we are adjourned.